leaving on a jet plane. I do know when I'll be back again though, so that's as far as I can go with the song. But I wanted to talk a little bit about crafting and travel, whether it be your crochet or your knitting project. Talk a little bit about my experience traveling, and then show you how I'm preparing for plane travel and crafting. So I am definitely taking my crochet with me on the plane. Sitting there for 9 hours without being able to do that with my hands would probably drive me crazy. And I have looked on both the airline and the airport websites to make sure that my crochet hooks, or if you're a knitter, your knitting needles would be allowed. Now, both the airports that I'm traveling to and from and the airline allow crochet hooks and knitting needles. That's across the board. However, everybody puts the caveat that it will be up to the discretion of the security personnel. And that's an important phrase, because it means that even if the rule is, yes, these are allowed, they can decide, no, it looks too much like a weapon to them or something that could endanger somebody, and confiscate them. So personally, I have never, ever had a problem. I have done lots and lots and lots of flying in my lifetime, and always traveled with crochet projects, and usually with my good metal hooks, because it never occurred to me that I couldn't. The naivete of the young. But more and more I've heard stories about people who've had their hooks taken. And so what I did is I bought some cheap plastic hooks. I tried out a variety of sets and found one that I will be happy enough working with for the project that I'm taking on the plane. And then I will pack my good hooks for actually being on vacation and whatever opportunities I get to crochet. I will talk a little bit more about that when I show you the bag that I'm using, and what I got, why I got it, how I see it working, and why I think it's a good way to pack for on board the plane. You can also take scissors that are smaller than 4 inches. This is almost always true, though some of the smaller airports I find have stricter regulations. So that's something you do want to check if you're not traveling from one of the major airports, as I find in smaller airports, they can be more strict, or in countries where they have stronger security concerns, that is something to double check before you get there. I usually use small crafting scissors, but this time I'm not even taking that. I've chosen a project that is one cake that will last more than the 9-hour flight, so that I shouldn't have to be cutting my yarn at any point. But if you were wanting to work on something that is small and not going to fill up your lap, like granny squares, for example, where you're needing to cut your yarn often, then I would look at some of the very small crafting scissors, and there is a wide variety of options out there. I just, this is one little set that I got recently, and these I got from Temu, but they're very small. They would meet that, and they actually work quite well. They come with this little protective cover, and you can even keep them in the case that they come in. So, but there's lots of things like this on the market. that are relatively inexpensive and easy to get. I like that one because it's pretty cute. And so just keep that in mind. This time I've decided not to travel with stuff like that. You might also want to think about stitch markers and what it is you're using. If they have a sharp pinpoint, again, it should be okay. Darning needles should be okay. But you never know. So what I prefer to do is not bring my best things on the plane with me. Those I pack in my suitcase, and I have some cheap stuff that I picked up from Amazon or Temu or on clearance from a craft store, stuff like that I bring with me. If you have plastic darning needles and you feel like you might be wanting to spend some of that boring time on the plane doing the job of weaving in your ends. I've started doing those as I go, so it's not this mammoth chore at the end, but that's something to keep in mind. Maybe take a plastic one. I use the safety pin style stitch markers. Those are my favorite. But again, I use the plastic ones for a variety of reasons. I can leave them on when I put them in the washer and they don't rust. There's no staining from any kind of coating. And they close and they stay closed pretty well. So that's why I use those. They're my favorite anyway. Yeah. Tape measure, of course, that's no problem. So those are the things that I can think of that, yes, the regulations usually allow, but you want to double check. And you always want to keep in mind that it can always be overruled by the security agent in whatever line you happen to be in. This is why I'm now packing my good hooks. Especially, I am a Susan Bates soft grip girl. Like I just, once I started using these hooks, I've never found anything else that for me works or feels as comfortable. Everybody has their own hook thing, whatever works for you. If you're a Clover or more, whatever, great, fantastic. I'm happy for you. But if you know Susan Bates, they're metal. They have a very pointy head. They're inline hooks, so they're quite sharp. I mean, not quite sharp, but they have a more menacing look to them, especially in the smaller sizes. And now that I'm in Europe, they're not so easy to get and they're more expensive. So I would be devastated if somebody took my hooks and I had to sit there for 9 hours without anything to do with my hands. But I'd be all the more devastated if they took my good hooks. I feel quite attached to them and don't want to just give them away. So I pack those and I take something that, yes, I'd be sad that I couldn't craft, but I'm not really going to be upset if they take them away. And I will show you what I'm personally taking this time. Again, I've never had a problem, but more and more I'm hearing about people experiencing this. I have heard of people taking a self-addressed envelope to the airport. If they do get stuck at security, putting their hooks or needles in it and then mailing it to themselves. Not all airports have mail facilities. That is something to keep in mind. The airports that most people who are visiting us fly into or out of, Leipzig or Dresden, you can't mail from either of those unless Leipzig might have a mailbox, but nowhere where you could actually buy the postage. So that's something, I think that's a more extreme approach. But if you really hate working with inexpensive hooks or needles, keep that in mind. I know several knitters recommend taking the wooden needles on board the plane rather than the metal needles. It is a little bit of a gamble, but it should be, you should have very good odds in that gamble. It's just going to be if you hit the wrong person on the wrong day. Especially if you have double checked your airport and your airlines. Interestingly enough, I fly in and out of Israel a lot. There's always very heightened security. And I've never ever had trouble with my crafting things. I did once have trouble with my electric toothbrush, but we resolved that issue. So I would say just be as prepared as possible and do your research before you go. Now, let's go pack my bag. Okay, so this is my bag, and this is how I approach it. I did get this bag from Temu, and at the time I was thinking it was a little bit of a splurge. I think it was about 26 euros. But the reason I bought it is it said that these compartments were totally sealed right down to the bottom. But as you can see, they're not. They are attached to each other with Velcro. And, like, you can hear that. And they're not sealed at the bottom because you can remove them and sort of configure it in different ways, which is sort of nice. But I contacted Temu and I said, look, this is the reason I bought it and I don't have time to buy something else. And so they gave me all my money back. So it's nice. So I ended up getting this bag for free and it's going to work. How I solved the problem with the yarn and concerns about anything spilling. I'm going on a flight, so I'm not going to have any liquid. But if I was driving, I could have maybe drinks in here or something. And there'd be moisture that leaked through underneath the separations. And I was also concerned about the Velcro snagging the yarn. So I solved that problem. Hook's flying. With one of these yarn caddies. Now that's a full Stenley vegan cake. So 1,200 meters in there. It fits fine. And my yarn just pulls out of the top here. So the only thing that is a disadvantage to that is then once I sort of have a bit of a project, I don't have anywhere for it to go that it's protected. But I'm brainstorming that. So I put that in there and I put my working hook in with it. I also have tucked my selfie stick in here in case I want to get any footage. I have another channel about traveling with autistic children. So I'm definitely doing that. And I thought there might be things that I want to capture. So anyway, that's why I have my selfie stick with. I have sort of a diaper caddy section over here. This I will use for snacks and stuff to keep the boys entertained. This is my sort of tech pocket with chargers, my laptop. And in here, I keep the things that I need to reach easily, my wallet, a power pack, traveling with so many kids and tablets, very important. And then there's a separate pocket here that's zipped that I keep our passports and boarding passes and that in. So it's clear, it's easy, I can grab it. This bag is obviously made for crafting. And I did pick up a cheap set of plastic hooks from Temu that I'm actively working on a review of. And liking them so far. There's some downsides, but I think I paid €3.50 or something around that for an entire 8-hook set. Yeah, 8 hooks. I've got one in there and I've got one somewhere else for something I'm working on. And I've just put them in what some might think is upside down. But I thought especially because some of them are very small, so that looks like a very sharp point. And actually it is pretty sharp because I use inlines. And I just thought that might be easier to get through security. I have a tendency to be an optimist when it comes to project packing. So this time I've decided, no, I'm only taking one project, and I know I have more than 9 hours work left on this shawl. And so I'm taking it. It is one cake. I shouldn't need scissors or anything else. So that and my good hooks are packed over here in the suitcase, in this little bag. And I've got a measuring tape and small scissors, more stitch markers, my full set of hooks for the yarn that I pick up on my travels if I want to get started on something, or if I do finish this project and need something different for the flight home. I don't know what that project will be. I throw things that I might need quickly in this little pocket: Tic Tacs, inhaler, and I'm not sure what I would keep on this side. If I was doing a road trip, this is where I would keep stitch markers, the small scissors, the measuring tape, etc. I would put that in there. Usually I don't go with something already worked up, but I was watching Mark Vogel, Maker Mark Makes, I think, who is primarily a knitter but does crochet, and he travels a lot, and he was talking about his experiences with traveling, and he finds it smoother going through security when he has something actually on his needles. So I have never actually paid attention to that, but I thought, okay, I will listen to his advice. And so I did that as well. Especially, I'm working on something pretty fiddly, fingering weight, my son at the door, fingering weight, and that first starting part of a triangle shawl is just so finicky that I thought, okay, do that in the calm, relaxed space of my home. And then I couldn't stop. I'm just loving this pattern. And it's just been really fun. So I just sort of kept going, and actually I'm going with quite a few rows done, but you can get a sense of what it'll look like. But it is a gift, and I do need to get it done on this trip. So I'm looking forward to doing that. Yeah, so that's my strategy as far as how I travel on a plane with my crochet. So far, I'm very pleased with this bag. I can tell you after the trip if I'm still pleased with the bag, but it does have the nice shoulder strap with the padded piece there that I can use it that way, or it does have the 2-handle option, which is also handy. So yeah, that's my strategy for flying, and I think it will be successful. I hope it'll be successful, and if not, I will tell you that too. But yeah, that's my crafting travel, and I'm not taking any yarn other than this cake. And because it's been a long time since I've been to North America anywhere, and I'm hoping to pick up some yarn while I'm there and have the opportunity to see stuff and touch stuff and do that all in person. Apparently, I better go play with my kids now. So I hope you enjoyed this. I hope it's helpful to you. And I will see you when I'm back. So one other feature that I should have mentioned about this bag that I didn't is that it has this extra sort of layer in the zippable lid where you can feed your yarn through. Now, personally, I don't use this feature because I like to have my yarn be a little bit more mobile as I'm traveling. But you can keep the other half with these snaps, so with your other stuff in it closed, and still have your yarn. So you could use this if you were doing color work or something, for example, and have each of your colors in a different section. You know, if you don't have to travel with diapers and snacks, you could do that and then have it feed through and just sort of sit on the floor in front of you, and keep everything nice and neat that way. As I said, I personally just prefer to have my yarn a little bit more mobile. And once I've fed it through here, and my project is on this side and my yarn is on that side, I'm sort of stuck in one spot. So I personally don't use these, but it is an option for you when you're traveling. If you are doing something larger or more intricate, that you need to keep everything nice and neat and straight as you're sitting on a plane for a long time. So that is one more feature of the bag that I didn't mention, and I just thought that might be of interest to some of you. Yeah, I'm not sure which way to turn this thing. I'm sorry, I'm still learning. That's how I'm going this time. I don't know, hopefully that's helpful to you. It gives you some ideas about what you can do. I will link the video that I talked about from Mark Vogel in the description box. You can check his video out. He has some very informative things to say and also travels quite a bit. And maybe that will also be helpful to you. I wish you bon voyage and happy travels, and I hope you will join me when I return from mine and we can talk more yarn. Until then, be safe.